This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, March 10th, 2025, and we're so glad you could join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our closing markets. But first, it is my conversation with Mark Storr of BASF as we preview the 2025 growing season. Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Mark Storr. He is a field tech service rep here in central Iowa for BASF. And Mark, good to see you again. Thanks for taking the time to join me here today. I know this winter we have not dealt with a lot of snowfall, and we haven't even gotten any benefit of the moisture from the snowfall this winter. It's been a dry winter. We finished the growing season so dry. Where are we at right now? Are we in any spots where we have any concerns about dryness going into the growing season here in 2025?
I'm pretty sure it's on top of all Iowa growers' minds. We got shorted last year. We had a good crop, I think, for most of Iowa. Some areas were actually way too wet, as you're probably familiar up in north central Iowa with some really bad flooding. But that's an exception to the rule. When we look across the board, we've been in a pretty dry state. So that does enter into the picture for decision. I know it's on growers' minds. They had difficulty getting anhydrous to seal last fall. We were fortunate enough around Halloween to get some nice rainfall, and that all soaked in. Unfortunately, no snow cover. We'll see. The winter's not over yet. We're going to be counting on some spring rains to get us that subsoil moisture recharge. So really setting the crop up for something good.
What challenges are growers looking at going into 2025? What's kind of at the top of your mind right now as you're getting ready for this new growing season?
Well, a lot of concern about costs, trying to figure out how they're going to be competitive. And, I'm of the adage that you can't save your word of prosperity, right? Because you got to be, have a sharp pencil to figure out where you're going to cut. And I just was at a session today where Dr. Wes Everett from Iowa State was talking about herbicide and weed management and how that's an area that we need to preserve our ability to control weeds. And, there are some options of some older products that we can maybe make use of, but there's some new technologies, I think, that are out there that we want to definitely employ and utilize to the best of our ability to help manage our resistant weed populations.
What are some of those new technologies from BASF that farmers can look forward to getting and using in their fields?
Well, we're really excited about a product called Certain herbicide. We actually launched it last year, but it was really just to get it out. We got late registration and not in time to do a true sales year, but we had tons and tons of demonstration plots around the state. And that really worked awesome. It's a great product. It's a combination of two active ingredients that are very, very effective, and that would be Zidua and Sharpen. So you have a PPO in the Sharpen, and you have the Group 15, the long chain fatty acid inhibitor, and the Zidua, and both of them have excellent activity. These is a soil applied herbicide. We have no post activity. And that's actually due to the encapsulation process. People are familiar with Sharpen or probably utilize it as a burn down product. But in this case, we have a unique patented dry encapsulation product that keeps that Sharpen herbicide in the capsule, so it's not available until it gets to soil. So basically what that does is gives us both pre and post flexibility. Now, if going post and if you have emerged weeds, you will need to add a tank mix partner, but it really offers that flexibility because right now with products that are limited with once the crop is up, we can no longer utilize them because we injure the crop. In this case, we'll have that flexibility to do so. So we actually got registration so late last year that a lot of folks did what I'd say is not something I'd normally recommend, a row and go type of a program where they made these applications of Certain to early emerged corn. excellent crop safety. Everything was great, but we also had excellent weed control. So that's not something I count on. I'm always a little hesitant to think of a product as being a one-pass solution, particularly for weeds like water hemp that continue to develop or germinate over a long period of time. But it really worked excellent. So we'll be looking at more of that this year, and certainly a lot of it will go out. That pre-emerge program, it really lends itself to where we work the soil. So the northern 2/3 of the state of Iowa, where we're still using some type of a incorporation tool or soil seedbed preparation tool like a field cultivator, it'll work perfectly in those applications as well. For the no-tillers, we have that ability to go pre-emerge over the top. You still get the excellent soil activity. And again, once the crop gets out of the ground, it's still a possibility for you to make that application over the top of that crop until the corn is 3-leaf. That's our only limitation.
Mark, did you see anything unique to the state of Iowa last year in the growing season, or something that caught your eye and you're thinking about going into this year and having to deal with?
Well, the Midwest is very unique in the fact that, we're heavy on corn and soybeans, so we fight a lot of the same weeds. I think there's we're seeing more of the larger seeded broadleafs maybe sneak in and be a little bit more of a problem. I've actually had people remark about cocklebur, and like, cocklebur, come on. I mean, we've controlled that very well for years and years and years. So I think it just has to do with the change in mindset of different management practices that they've been employing. I know the last few years, velvet leaf has seemingly kind of grown in stature, hearing more about that. We have the usual suspects, the giant ragweed and mare's tail. They're a challenge for some growers, particularly in eastern Iowa with giant rag. A lot of no-till acres, we deal with something like the mare's tail. And, of course, we have, the winter annuals like henbit is a real pain for southern Iowa growers in no-till situations. So I think weeds are opportunistic. They like certain environmental conditions and thrive under, certain conditions. And so, depending on rainfall patterns and, heat and all those things, they will take advantage of the environment when it lends itself. So, but for the most part, I saw a lot of clean fields last fall, but I could certainly take it to guys that probably didn't, they weren't doing some of the right things that we needed to do. And that's where I'm more concerned about the weeds that went to seed. And let's not forget our corn, because we think of weed control being maybe a little bit more difficult in soybeans because of the resistance to water hemp, to a lot of different herbicides. But we have a lot of excellent products, and we're really leaning heavily on status. We sell more and more of that product every year in corn to battle water hemp and corn. So it's an excellent tool that we're going to need to employ more of as time goes by.
He is Mark Storr with BASF, my guest here today. Mark, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa growers, our Iowa viewers and listeners know about when it comes to kind of what you're thinking about in 2025 and just anything you're excited about?
Well, I think, I grew up on a farm. Farming is my background. I do own a little farm ground, but, I'm a perennial optimist. Every farmer has to do so, or if they have that mindset going into the season and look at what what could be as opposed to what shouldn't or can't be. So that positive mindset, I've always approached my life every day in that respect. But as people, have questions, be sure to reach out. We have a lot of excellent resources. You could go to the World Wide Web, and a lot of BASF, whether it's a video or information available online. Start with your local retailer. There's guys like me. We have a tech service rep. There's 3 of us that cover the state of Iowa, and several business reps as well. So be sure to reach out to those people and probe them for questions, and they'll be more than willing to help you out, I think.
He is Mark Storr with BASF, my guest here today. Mark, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of the Agribusiness Showcase.
You bet. Thanks a lot.
Thank you to Mark Storr of BASF for joining today's show. It is time now for a check of the closing markets. That is on the way with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
You're watching Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and it is time now for Closing Markets with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, what happened with the trade in the grains today?
Well, we saw a divergence between corn and wheat and then to soybeans. A little bit more of an explanation on that is because the retaliatory tariffs that China put on 10-15% did impact soybeans, but it did as well corn. I mean, they put it on both of those, but that wasn't the bigger issue. The bigger issue seemed to be the exports or the sales so far of soybeans from Brazil, putting pressure onto the market. Basically, Safras Makata said that they estimate bean sales at 42% so far this year of their production, compared to about 37% a year ago. So they're trying to move that stuff out as quickly as possible. So that might have put more of the pressure on the market. And actually, bean export sales, weekly export sales were to the top end of the range, but nothing really earth-shattering. 844,218 metric ton. They were good, but like I said, toward the top end of the range, but still in the range. And then looking forward to the WASDE report tomorrow, the estimates are that USDA may increase the ending stocks for soybeans, not much, but by 1 million bushels compared to what it was in February. So, just the combination of that may have put a little more negativity on that market. They're looking at Argentina soybean production down slightly and Brazil production up slightly. So that's fairly neutral in the market, but I think more of it's been tied to the harvest pace and the selling pace of soybeans out of South America. Now, the export inspections on corn were very good at 1.820 million metric ton. The estimate was 1 to 1.4 million metric tons. So really a good pace there. Wheat was low at 216,173 metric ton. They were looking for 250 to 450. But wheat was supported today, seems to be more so from the weaker US dollar. That seemed to generate more of the interest because the estimates for the World Supply and Demand Report are for a slight increase of 2 million bushels in wheat ending stocks. So nothing really there too much, about the same for world ending stocks. So it seemed to be more tied to the dollar per se, and because corn was supported and stronger. Now, Argentina corn harvest might be lowered to 49 million metric ton, down from 15 million metric ton, on the report tomorrow. That wouldn't be out of the ordinary based on some of the dryness they've had there. The interesting thing about corn in the last week, or up to Tuesday last week, the Commitment Traders Report showed that funds or managed money sold 127,000 futures contracts in corn up until last week Tuesday. That is the second largest week of liquidation ever recorded for managed money. So that was huge. Now, we did see the strength last week, so some of that might have been reversed during the end of last week, which may be providing some of the support now as traders enter back into the market based on the potential for maybe a little bit more of a bullish WASDE report.
On the other side of the ag marketplace, what was the story for the trade in cattle and hogs today?
Well, the livestock were, I think, recipients of follow-through from Friday's trade. They were higher across the board. Not a huge amount, but feeder cattle, new contract highs again today from the May and later contracts. They pushed to new contract highs on Friday with a huge increase. And that seemed to come from the cash market in cattle. Northern dressed cattle were $2 higher last week, with southern live cattle $1 higher. So we saw that follow through strength. We've seen some little more strength on box beef at midday today. We were up $1.42 choice, select up $1.20. So the market might be near the bottom as far as traders are concerned, so it gave them a little bit more incentive to step back into that market. Plus, some of the delays again with the tariffs. And then if we start to see a little bit more buying interest from the consumer that supports the cutout prices, that's what we were searching for in that market, was supportive cutout prices, which we hadn't seen for a while. Now, this is going to give feedlots probably the incentive to hold this week to at least get steady cash. So it'll be interesting as we move through the week to see how the traders will look at that market. Now, in the hogs, we see some follow through as well there. They had a good day on Friday. They actually had a good last week for the most part. Cutouts at midday were up $1.81, but National Direct midday report was down 70 cents. That was anticipated. Cash would be a little bit lower as the packers were kind of waiting to see what over weekend demand was. Now, the July contract moved above $100 briefly today. So traders are gaining a little more confidence that that market has maybe reached the bottom as well, and maybe turning the corner, and they're buying into that market a little more aggressively. Again, as with beef, we need to see more consistency in the cutouts underneath, but if we start to see some of that consistency, we are going to gain most of what we lost.
What's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
Well, they can call me directly at 877-256-3253, or they can go to our website and they can call the number there. And it's an 844 number. It's on for contact. Somebody will be glad to speak with them.
Robin Schmahl, agmarket.net, my guest for Closing Markets today. Robin, thank you for the time. Appreciate it, and we'll speak again soon.
All right. Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for joining today's show. Let's take a look at how the numbers finished up today in the ag marketplace. And you can find market information anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com. May corn closes up 2 3/4 at $4.72 even. May soybeans down 11 cents at $10.14 even. May soybean meal down 2.10 at $302.30. May soybean oil down $1.16 at $42.26. Chicago wheat up 11 1/4 at $5.62.5. Minneapolis wheat up 11 3/4 at $6.04.5. Kansas City hard red wheat up 13 3/4 at $5.78.5. May oats up 5 1/2 at $3.77 even. On the Merc, April live cattle up 30 cents at $200.57. March feeder cattle up 7 cents at $277.05. April lean hogs up 95 cents at $88.30. April pork cutout unchanged at $96.80. Class 3 milk up 5 cents at $18.41. That does it for Closing Markets on today's episode and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on social media as well at Facebook, X, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcast wherever you find your favorite podcast at Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. Also, don't forget our daily episodes of our Iowa Ag Matters podcast. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Riley Smith, Dustin Huffman, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.